Hello everyone, we are from Project WOW, and welcome to Drawing Perspectives, Episode 2. In the last episode, we heard the perspectives of Singaporeans who did not have prior personal interactions with migrant workers. Some common thoughts were that migrant workers love their family a lot, and that they play important roles in our society. Today's episode will focus on a group of migrant workers who play an important role in our households, our foreign domestic workers. Did you know that 1 in every 5 Singaporean households has a domestic worker? With a rapid aging population and the high prevalence of dual-income families, it is increasingly seen to be a necessity for Singaporeans to hire domestic workers to lessen domestic responsibilities. In this video, we will explore some personal experiences of Singaporeans and their relationships with their foreign domestic workers, and hopefully draw new perspectives of foreign domestic workers in Singapore. Our first story comes from a 19-year-old female who has a close-knitted relationship with a domestic worker, and these are her views. My domestic helper joined my family in Singapore in 1996 and stayed with us for 23 years up to 2019. She helped out with all the basic household chores such as laundry and cooking. Even though it was part of her job scope to take care of the household chores, my family helped her out with some chores daily and treated her like one of our own. In fact, over time, when I don't wash my own dishes, my helper would scold me as she wanted me to be independent. She also helped out a lot when my sister had her first child, giving tips from her own motherhood experiences. I heard from my parents that when she first came to Singapore, she didn't understand English at all, and they had to rely on hand motions to communicate with her. Despite these language barriers, she has mastered English, Chinese, and even Hakka and Hokkien dialects over the years. She also learned how to cook some of our traditional dishes like yong tau fu and our cultural customs such as Chinese New Year greetings. She helped a lot in my growth as a person, such as to become more resilient, caring, and independent. She showed me how to stay strong in times of difficulties that she had faced in Singapore, and taught me how to not over-rely on others. She also allowed me to understand that people who come from different countries and cultures could be as close as one's family members. During her free day, my helper usually hangs out with her friends in the central area and explores different sceneries. She also likes to play around with beauty filters and sets them as a profile picture on her social media platforms. Of course, she calls her family every day and sometimes gets us in the frame too, to let us see her family through the video call. As my helper was not good at writing, she encountered problems when she wanted to send items back to Indonesia. She would ask us for help to write down her home address on a cardboard box full of her items. It was really heartwarming to see how much she cares for her family back in Indonesia. There was also once when one of her family members passed away in Indonesia, and she felt really sad that she couldn't be there to send her off. We tried to ease her workload by helping out more with the household chores and comforted her. Even though she's back in Indonesia today, we still keep in touch with her through video calls once every few weeks. It was heartbreaking when we had to say goodbye to her at the airport. But I want to thank this superhero in my life, and I hope to visit her soon in Indonesia. When I think about domestic workers, an image of a bee immediately comes into mind. I feel that most people may be afraid of bees because of the possibility of them stinging humans. This reminds me of the importance of trust between both employers and domestic workers in order to establish a strong connection. At the end of the day, if friendships are made, they can make your day sweet like honey. Next up, we have another personal experience from a 25-year-old male. Here is what he has to say.
My grandma's helper is from Myanmar, and she currently lives with my grandma and aunt. Her general job scope involves mainly taking care of my grandma and handling household chores at home. Even though my grandma will point out her faults occasionally, they still take care of each other well. My grandma would buy bottled drinks for her helper, and in return, her helper would help to apply ointment on her legs. While I don't live with my grandma and her helper, we stay close to each other and I would often go over to her house, giving me the chance to interact with her helper. There is still a language barrier because she cannot speak or understand English well. But I am friendlier with her now and even help out with the household chores sometimes and share food with her. I also shared with her about her rights as a domestic worker. I have learned that no matter how much domestic workers are motivated by a sense of responsibility to support their family, their attitude and work performance may be negatively affected if they do not feel appreciated and respected by their employers. My grandma's helper often uses her phone to contact her family and dedicates time to pray and meditate as a Buddhist every night. During her free time, she mostly takes naps. The most memorable moment I had with her was when I saw her being supportive towards my sister, hugging my sister who was crying at that time. I think that one problem some domestic helpers face in Singapore is the lack of transparency between their employers and their agency. Some employers may deliberately hide their family situation from the agency, causing unclear workload expectations from the helpers. For example, some helpers might not have expected the huge amount of caregiving they have to do for the family, especially when it involves heavy responsibility for medical care. There could also be families encountering financial difficulties and only able to afford basic food and necessities such as bee-hoon for every meal, that the helpers become malnourished. I chose wildflowers to represent foreign domestic workers because I feel that both are resilient, being able to adapt well and thrive in foreign environments. However, such thrivingness is more likely when there is open communication to align mutual expectations and mutual respect between them and their employers, without employers imposing exacting rules on their domestic workers.
With that, we have come to the end of the stories shared by our volunteers, and we would like to thank them for their time. Isn't it interesting how such strong bonds were forged between the two domestic workers and their employers, and how they were seamlessly integrated into the families gradually? Many domestic workers, like those whom our sharers interacted with, take on a significant role in the various households they work for, sometimes becoming as close as family members. While many domestic workers were hired to help lessen domestic responsibilities in families, it is important that we recognize their rights and ensure that they have adequate social, physical, and mental support as well. Other than this important group, there lies a group of non-domestic migrant workers that have contributed significantly to the growth of Singapore. Our next video will feature them, so stay tuned to our upcoming videos to explore more about the migrant workers scene in Singapore. In the meantime, you can check out our other platforms for more content regarding migrant workers. That's all we have for now. See you all soon!